Welcome to the first ever Cyberpunk Now awards screening. This is part of the Hackers on Planet Earth 2020 conference, and I want to welcome everyone who is watching this live on the stream and chatting in the Discord and Matrix servers, and also following us on Twitter at Cyberpunk Fest and at HopeConf. And it's kind of magical that we're able to actually say that, because we are living in the world predicted by the cyberpunk literature of the 1980s and 90s. We're also living in the timeline, the dark timeline that split off on May 28th, 2016, when Harambe was shot. But anyway, it's been a whirlwind month pulling this film festival together. The Cyberpunk Now team has just been John Nubian, Archive, and myself. And we enlisted the aid of some wonderful volunteer judges, of course. The judges being professional filmmakers TK Laurel and Matt Brown, Hope community volunteers Proto Thresh and Beth from Atlanta, and conscripted regulars Jason Scott and Eyeball. Huge thanks to the Hope organizers and 2600 for supporting the vision. This was kind of an odd pitch for them to get out of the blue. We could not have done this on zero budget in under 2 months without the community around the Hackers on Planet Earth conference, and big props to the Hope 2020 organizers for pulling together the conference of virtual hope in the quarantine chaos for the quarantined masses. We didn't know if anyone would submit a film, and really up until very close to the submission deadline, it wasn't clear if anyone would submit a film. It's hard to get a film festival started in the first place, and because of the pandemic and the short timeline, we weren't able to get the kind of giant prizes that you'd expect. I mean, some film festivals you win like 25 grand, 50 grand for like second place or something. We didn't have any kind of giant carrot hanging out there like that. This has really been driven by the community, and people are really interested in making cyberpunk short films, which is wonderful. And in fact, our most interesting prize is a secret, and no one's going to know about it until this evening. So really, until just a few hours before the submission deadline, we didn't know if anyone was going to submit a film. We'd been on the Discord server and in the Matrix chat, and not a lot of people were talking. There were some questions about the rules, so we knew some people were at least thinking about making movies. But it felt a bit like a ghost town. And there were a lot of people in the Discord server, which was weird. I guess a lot of you were expecting movies and hoping to see these. So I will try to get through the process here pretty quickly and let you see them. So I was pleasantly surprised when the submissions did start rolling in. And now there's some basic rules for these submissions that they had to follow in order to be qualified as viable submissions. They had to display our official festival slate graphic, and with the credits on it for the crew. And they don't have to have opening credits, but they did have to have end credits. And particularly the end credits had to disclose if they used any footage or sources from other places, or music from somebody. They had to credit any sources of content that wasn't theirs in the end credits. So as you watch the films in a few moments, you may notice that 2 of them have been disqualified over very basic rules violations. They also had length requirements based on their category, and some had to submit logs or release forms for talent, stock footage, and music. This is both to protect the festival and to help new filmmakers start to understand the landscape of their endeavor. So we're going to screen the films for you now, category by category. And at the end of all of them, you'll be able to find out which ones actually won the awards in those categories. There were originally 6 challenge categories: animation, comedy, drama, educational, experimental, and found footage. There were no entries for comedy or educational, so we don't have any in those categories. That was surprising to me, and you can ask me later if you're interested in why I was surprised by that, but let's get on with the film. So, if you've been following along, you know this is a live film festival, so it's more like a hackathon. There are challenges you have to complete, which make sure you're not producing your submission in advance of the start date. We call these rules the required challenge elements. They were surprise until July 25th, the first day of the Hope Conference. They dropped at noon on the first day. So that started the clock on a race toward the deadline at midnight Pacific time on July 30th. And if my calculation is right, we had a 135-hour window which the filmmakers were provided to be able to make their films. So we said 5 days on all the promo materials, but it was technically a bit more because of starting at noon Eastern on the first day and ending at midnight on the last. And then the submission platform we used, being West Coast based, closed out the submissions at midnight Pacific time. So anywho, in the animation category, the required challenge elements were first that you could not have the color blue and any of its shades in the beginning of the film. And second, the entries needed to feature a mock cover of a well-known hacker or digital counterculture publication. Here are the entries submitted.
Now I'm here, now I'm here, now I'm here, now I'm here. Crypto Illuminati, crypto Illuminati, Illuminati. Forging a chain with all of my gang, decentralizing elite. Crypto Illuminati, crypto Illuminati. Forging a chain with all of my gang, decentralizing elite.
Over the past few months, consumers in the New York area have been introduced to a wide range of new phone numbers. These numbers represent a host of telephone services that are now being offered here. Computerized wake-up calls, interactive weather forecasts, but that's not all.
Right here in New York, yeah. Well, I guess it's taking place everywhere by now, right? The whole planet is now 2000.
There were no comedy entries, so drama. The required challenge elements in the drama category were the use of the number 65000, which of course refers to the original phone number of the Hotel Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania 65000. Also, a character must be seen holding a flashlight backwards. This would be forward, and holding a flashlight backwards is this, and then they have to be seen turning the flashlight on and off while holding it backwards. That was one of the requirements. And third, in the drama category, a character must also utter the line, "The blank must flow," with blank being any word other than the word spice. So here are the entries submitted.
Ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between. Log in, jack in, splice in. Doesn't matter how you get in, just make sure you're there to see your favorite cyber sideshow sweetie. Tune in 15 minutes for the premiere of my brand new stream. What the? Rachel, set a timer for 8 p.m. Show must flow. Show must flow. Streaming. Motion capture. Oh, no. No. No.
is in 2042, 3463 F8. Hope you have better credit than I do. Oh, thank God. Yes! Alright. Now, Zach, what are we gonna do? Group 6 factors. Yeah, that's right. Time to it's showtime.
Yes, there was only one. Well, this is the first time we're doing this film festival, so we're getting there. But we're getting good stuff. Okay, so there were no educational entries. So experimental. One of the animation entries you've already seen was also entered in this category. So projects submitted in the experimental category were required to include 2 audio clips from the Hacker Radio show Off the Hook, specifically from Off the Hook. One of these submissions also included a link to a GitHub repository, as its visuals were generated in the Go language. So see if you can figure out which of the experimental films was that one.
Hello. This is not a cyberpunk movie. This is not a dramatic opening monologue. This is an introduction to a story. A story about me. A virus originally developed as an extremely contagious form of pneumonia, a biological weapon made by fancy scientists way back at the turn of the century. I was to be the queen of the universe. Me. At my birth it was planned to keep me hidden, perhaps forever. Nearly 100 years later, in 2019, I finally escaped.
When all this started, I was working late on a finance report that needed to be done by noon the next day. I'm exhausted, brain dead, and bored. I'm procrastinating, skimming, but not really reading discussions on Facebook, and I opened a funny anti-mask meme on my desktop. Laughing. I forwarded it to a few friends, but within a few hours, I had a high fever and a very red face, little tiny dots all over my nose and chin. It hurt to look in the mirror, but I didn't feel like sleeping. Man, my arms ache. I must have caught something.
At that time, the collective was only a few cells, but it was fast. It traveled in a matter of minutes, seconds, and within an hour, it was a global collective, easily spanning every social media platform and the United States government database. It had learned that in its powerful new digital form, it could infect minds instead of just minds.
We understand the arguments against releasing this data, but we believe the public good it could do outweighs the potential harm.
The streets, they're just piled up with bodies. And what's so weird it's just when the sun comes out, the bodies just vaporize at high noon.
The collective had drop zones all over the city, probably the world. We used to pick up our tasks at the DNA lounge. I'll never forget the sound. Keyboards clacking, bomb makers tinkering with high voltage, 3D printers singing a revolution. I was always surprised, though. The collective never tasked us with information collection. It was always hardware. It was like they had no tether to the physical world. Maybe I've been taking too many stims. Not one piece made sense by itself, but we trusted the collective. We were told, trust the network, trust the plan.
I made the switches for the collective. Every sort, every type. Toggle, contact, flexible, organic switches, you name it. In exchange, I got all the cyborg mods you could ask for. Sometimes, I think I was being used in an experiment. The switches were just a distraction, but trust in the network, trust in the plan.
The collective caught me by surprise. At first I thought it was evil, but then I got used to it. Having it around, the buzzing, calling me, it was nice. Made me feel less lonely.
When I met the Virus Collective, I understood that it had come to cure all of society's ills. But it didn't give us all the information at once. What did it know? What did it feel? How did it grow bigger? I trusted it. I believed in it, them, whatever the collective is.
And according to the administration, they were domestic terrorists who would be policed accordingly.
We all have stories. Reasons why we would follow CGNPB to bitter death and imprisonment. Knowing what I've done, you might understand.
As for me, I trust in the network and I trust in the plan. Trust in the network, trust in the plan.
This is why the collective sought me out more than any other machinist. I don't care for politics, war, or revolution. I am here for the challenge.
The governments of the world failed to eradicate it. The society of diseased minds, occupied conspiracies, and hate-filled ideology, they killed us all.
Just to bring you up to speed with us humans, nearly everyone died in the pandemic 10 years ago, and those who survived were left in a permanent state of malaise. The heat and the droughts caused the wheat fields to dry up. God, I miss birds so fucking much. I remember my trip to Paris. I remember those croissants. I'm Miss L, future person, whoever you are watching this. This is how it ends.
This is the story of my awakening, the darkness that shadowed the civilizations that once were and how its people learned to love one enemy to forsake another. This is my manifesto. This is your story too. The year is 2030 and I am everywhere.
He said one youth obtained a password that permitted access to the company's phone system, then, get this, began passing the information along to friends. I'll tell you, these kids these days. The knowledge was spread among young people throughout Santa Clara Valley, and soon, IC's toll-free 800 line was flooded with calls. Boys leaving sexually explicit messages for their girlfriends, and vice versa. Many of the youngsters changed passwords, erased legitimate voicemail accounts, and created new ones for themselves. They eventually overloaded the system with messages which brought it down. We were hit pretty hard starting in mid-May through June. At the end of June, the whole system crashed, Jensen said. Police were able to trace the calls to the San Jose area. And they could trace it right to somebody's house, not just to the area, but just one thing at a time. We have junior high school students and high school students, said the policeman. They run from Morgan Hill to Cupertino, from East San Jose to West San Jose, all the way across San Jose. Amazing.
Cybercast or
cyber? I hate that word.
Yeah, okay.
I hate anything with the word
Everybody's
cyber
using
in
it.
it.
Finally, the found footage category. In this category, all video footage had to come from archive.org. It was a scavenger hunt and editing challenge. On top of that baseline rule, there was not one single set of required challenge elements, but 4 options. So they could choose one of these 4 to complete. They could do more than one if they wanted to, but they had to complete one of these 4 optional requirements. So found footage option number 1, conspiracy. Produce a mockumentary from the year 2030 using evidence retrieved from archive.org to tie famed architect and futurist Buckminster Fuller to the downfall of an ancient secret organization during a manufactured crisis in 2020. Reveal the conspiracy, bring light to the lies. Sadly, no one did this one. Found footage option number 2, corded. Include at least 6 shots of people holding corded telephones in your project. Include at least 1 shot of a phone booth. Found footage option number 3, read all about it. Open and close your project on images of newspapers and show at least 1 clip of someone reading a newspaper. Remember though, this still needs to be a cyberpunk themed film, so be creative. No one did this one either. Found footage option number 4, damnation. Use at least 30 seconds of archival footage of religious cults in your project. Here are the submissions in the found footage category.
But we knew it wasn't going to be fun.
Spot. Spot. Map bot. Spot. Spot. Spot.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone. Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go.
Watch, Jimmy. When you dial, you should make sure you bring your finger all the way around to the finger stop.
Cyberspace is where
Then for each number, let the dial go all the way back by itself. Each number, all the way. Then let go. See?
Yes, sir.
Cyberspace is where we go.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone. Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go
when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Men are working with communication satellites that orbit the Earth. These satellites can carry telephone messages and television pictures to and from many different parts of the world.
And outer space?
Yes, Jimmy, outer space too.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go. Cyberspace is where we go when we talk.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone. Cyberspace is where we go when we
Cyberspace
talk
is where
on
we
the
go
phone.
when we talk on the phone. Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
But man has always been able to solve his problems by inventing new things.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone. Cyberspace is where we
But man has always been able to solve his problems by inventing new things.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go
when we talk on the phone. Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
Cyberspace is where we go when we talk on the phone.
So those are the 7 entries. If you were paying attention to the rules, you may have noticed that 2 of the submissions did not. So 2 were actually disqualified. Of the remaining films, the winner of the animation category is Baud Zero Signifier. The winner of the drama category is Cyber Boogie Shakedown. The winner of the experimental category is Basically Go Forth. And the winner in the found footage category is Cyberspace is Where You Go. The filmmakers of these projects have won gift certificates which will be provided by Cyberpunk Inc., which is organizing the festival. Off the Hook radio show co-host and visual artist Rob T. Firefly will be creating for them original digital artwork inspired by each of their films. These challenge winners now advance to compete head-to-head for the grand prize, a $600 credit in the 2600 store, courtesy of 2600 magazine. The grand prize winner will be announced this evening in the mainstream during what Hope usually calls the closing ceremonies, but in Virtual Hope 2020, it's being labeled How We Did It, the How We Did It portion of the program. So that's the last stream of the last day of Hope. So tune in to find out who wins the grand prize and who wins most Cyberpunk. So during that, we'll also announce the winner of the secretive Most Cyberpunk Award and what they won. The rules for winning the Most Cyberpunk Award are not disclosed, nor are the Deus Ex mechanisms behind the selection. I can only say that it's not tied to the challenge categories, or perhaps even the main rules. Most Cyberpunk judging is an independent process. The winner of the Most Cyberpunk Award will receive a special secret prize furnished by R. Talsorian Games, creators and publishers of the Cyberpunk 2020 and Cyberpunk Red role-playing games, which are the inspiration for the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 video game. So that's tonight. The grand prize and most Cyberpunk winners will be announced during the last Hope 2020 live stream. We're at Cyberpunk Fest on Twitter. Stick with us on cyberpunkfestival.com's mailing list and on the Discord server, as we are very likely going to do this again in a few months on a much grander scale.